Daniel Meyer, music director and conductor of the Erie Philharmonic.
The Erie Philharmonic is riding a wave of not only audience support, but just sheer orchestral excellence and brilliance. And the orchestra's really playing well together. They love playing with each other. They respect each other. They look forward to getting together because, frankly, these are musicians that live in different communities. You have people coming from Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Erie County, Fredonia, New York. We have musicians coming from as far away as Toronto, Canada, to play in the Erie Philharmonic. So it's a unique collection of some of the finest musicians in this whole area. And when they get together, they're really excited to play because they don't often or always get to play the great masterworks that we play with the Philharmonic. So, for instance, Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique is a work that many musicians know and maybe have played in other locations, but then to get a chance to play together as the Erie Phil, this amazingly colorful and brilliant music, it's an enormous opportunity for all of us involved. And we just love that our audience understands that and responds to that and is enthusiastic about it. It's interesting because you would think that with my back turned to the audience and the musicians focused in on the notes on the page, that what happens in the audience doesn't really affect what we do, and it's quite the opposite. I notice right away the degree to which the audience is engaged in what we're doing. You can sense this energy that you're getting from the house. Certainly, of course, at the end of the pieces, when they applaud, we feel that release. We appreciate it, and we certainly realize that people are along for the journey just as we are as the performers of the music. So there's certainly a synergy, there is certainly an expectation, and there's certainly a level of communication that happens between the musicians on the stage and the audience in the house. And to have an audience as enthusiastic as the one that we have at the Warner makes us come back for more. We're looking at this 100th anniversary as a community-wide celebration. We're looking for the entire community to embrace and celebrate what an amazing joy it is to have an orchestra of the Erie Philharmonic's caliber in our community, active, thriving, playing great music on the symphonic side, on the pop side, playing at the Warner Theater, playing down on the Bayfront, playing in Meadville and Warren and Oil City and on the campuses of Penn State Behrend and Mercyhurst. And frankly, anywhere that will have us, we'll go. We love to take our music to the communities that surround Erie and Erie County. The sky's the limit. The thing that we're so excited about with this 100th anniversary is we really just look at it as a touchstone. We're thinking of this as a springboard into the next 100 years. Not only a means to look back at this incredible history of all these great artists and wonderful musicians and wonderful supporters who have taken care of the Erie Philharmonic over the past 100 years, but we're looking at this as a means to think about what is going to happen to us in the next 100 years. Will live music still be important to Erie, to people who live here, to people who come through town? What will our place be? How will we carve out a niche in this very hectic electronic world where we play acoustic instruments and we need human beings to relive these wonderful scores of Beethoven and Brahms and Mozart, and we need audience members to respond to that wonderful music making? It makes me very happy to know that people want their names attached to the Erie Philharmonic, to know that their brand or their company or their ethos is associated with some of the most quality music making that you can experience live in this community makes me feel really hopeful about what music is going to do for people, what it can do for people, and what it's going to do for future generations. I spend my days talking to kids in schools, or I go to retirement centers, or I go to the Rotary or the Kiwanis and talk to clubs and preach the gospel of the Erie Philharmonic. I really almost have to have a messianic zeal in that regard, and the great part is that it's coming back at me. I'm getting people coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I loved that concert last weekend," or "What can I do to get more involved with the Philharmonic?" So, of course, we have these relationships with corporate sponsors, but then, of course, all of our supporters and our board of governors and directors are all intimately connected to their place of business and want to make sure that they establish some sort of connection between the Philharmonic and their companies. The inspiration behind this year's programs in particular have to do with what a great orchestra we have. And let's celebrate that. Let's play music that really taxes the musicians, challenges them, but also shows them in a wonderful light. Because we have this beautiful hall in the Warner Theater. People love just being there. And then to hear this fantastic music and to feel comfortable and to be engaged with an art that requires engagement. With television or movies, you can kind of tune out or surf the net or whatever you want to do while that's happening, and people kind of multitask all the time to relax. In this case, you're relaxing, of course, but you're also engaging. You have to use your imagination. You have to follow the composer and really think, this is what she's she's trying to do with this particular gesture, or this is the backstory, or you come up with your own story to go with the music. That's what I love about the non-representational aspect of music. It really allows for many different people to create their own opinion about what the music represents, or what it means to them, or how it touches their soul or their heart, or makes them remember some fond memory that they may have. It's extraordinary what the power of music can do to the soul and to the psyche and to the intellect. And I'm just thrilled that we can play this great music because I don't think you can get it anywhere else. One thing that struck me initially about Erie and our audience is that they are fiercely proud of this orchestra, and they will protect it to the nth degree. They will want to make sure that it thrives for many more years. And I love this sense that the older generation feels themselves stewards in some regard of this orchestra and wants to make sure that it will be there for their children. They take care to make sure that we're not only performing for the adults at the Warner Theater, but that we're also penetrating into this broader community of families and children and being available to anyone who wants to hear great music. That really gets me excited about the possibilities. And ultimately, my goal is to make the Warner Theater a thriving destination for great music, but also get our musicians penetrating into the community even more. And perhaps maybe a string quartet from the Philharmonic would play in the lobby of Erie Insurance during the lunch break. Or they would go to Spring Hill and play a private recital for the residents, and show that these wonderful professional musicians care about not only what happens on the stage, but what happens musically in the community. And my goal, frankly, with an education concert is to inspire those kids to go home and say, Mom and Dad, I want to play the trumpet. I want to take up the clarinet. I want to play the violin. Because we know that our future audience is made up of music makers in addition to just music listeners. Music makers have a stake. They feel comfortable at concerts. They understand how music is put together. And they understand the degree of passion and expertise that has to go into putting music together like the music that we play on the stage. This idea that when you're talking about arts and what arts mean to a community and what they mean to an education system, it's so fascinating. I just read in the paper that Rahm Emanuel is making music a core subject again in the Chicago City schools. The pendulum, unfortunately, had swung so far the other way. This idea that to improve math and science scores, you just force more math and science down the students' throats. The research bears this out. It's completely wrong-headed. The right way to go is to inspire the students to want to come to class and to be energized by what they're learning and draw connections between the subjects and the arts. And why are fractions important in music? And why is perspective and size and architecture important in the visual arts? Being able to draw these connections between arts and sciences is what makes a whole human being. Those who are savvy and understand this, like the Greeks and the Romans, understood that to cultivate and to educate a whole human being, you have to touch all sides. You can't just focus on one area and think that that's going to blossom or grow. You have to inspire a learner to want more to learn. That's how I live my life. That's why I'm so thirsty when it comes to new music or music of our time or a piece that I may not be familiar with but would want to perform with the orchestra.